Hey folks, today's episode is sponsored by CarParts.com. CarParts.com is the smarter way to shop for auto parts. Their fast, mobile-friendly experience makes it easy to shop for the parts you need when you need them. Just enter the year, make, and model of your vehicle, start shopping, and start saving. It's that simple.
They contacted me to see if I wanted some parts for my M3, and it was really great because my taillights were looking a little cracked and old, the reverse lights the same thing, and I didn't have a cup holder in the middle of the car, and that was a big problem for a couple of years. It was easy to find the parts that fit, they showed up really quickly, and everything went in with a snap.
Yeah, between the no cup holder, no radio, and no taillights, you really had a luxury vehicle there for a while.
It was a performance vehicle. It was a track car that
Super
hadn't gone
Leggera.
track yet. Exactly. It was Super Leggera RS.
CarParts.com stocks their own inventory, cutting out the middleman and passing the savings on to you. Whether you've been in a collision, you're working on your project car, or you just need to catch up on maintenance, visit CarParts.com/thesmokingtire for 10% off of $100 or more on select brands. Get the right parts right now at CarParts.com/thesmokingtire. We're also brought to you today by Policy Genius. It is a new year, and it is time to make sure your home and auto coverage is similar to what you have now, but at a lower price. And the easiest way to do that is to renew via Policy Genius. Let Policy Genius look for a lower rate for you by comparing top insurers from Progressive to Allstate. It's so easy. Policy Genius is your one-stop shop to find and buy the insurance you need. All you have to do is click the link in the description or head over to PolicyGenius.com and answer a few questions. Policy Genius will show you price estimates for policies that fit your search and help you understand your options. Then the Policy Genius team looks for ways to save you more money, and if they find a better rate than what you're paying now, they will switch you over for free. Policy Genius has saved customers an average of $1,250 per year over what they were paying before for home and auto insurance. Right? The Policy Genius team works for you, not the insurance companies, so you can trust them to offer unbiased help and advocate for you at every step until your cover. They don't add on extra fees. Policy Genius doesn't sell your info to third parties, and Policy Genius has thousands of 5-star reviews across Google and Trustpilot. So head over to PolicyGenius.com to get your free home and auto insurance quotes and see how much you could save. We're also brought to you today by Valvoline, the original motor oil. Valvoline is and can only ever be America's first motor oil brand. And for 150 years, they've been innovating, creating, and reinventing motor oil. From the very first high mileage to the first synthetic blend to the first racing oil, they've never stopped pursuing innovation to maximize engine life. And their latest innovation is Extended Protection Full Synthetic Motor Oil, which provides 50% better wear protection than industry standards and is 10 times stronger against oil breakdown. Valvoline Extended Protection is specifically formulated with dual defense additive technology, which combines an innovative additive boosted with a fortified detergent system. And you may not think you're a severe driver, but short trips, towing, extreme temperatures, turbocharged engines and heavy loads, or just spirited drives put extra pressure on your engine. And so, Valvoline helps keep your engine running long and strong, and the 150-year history combined with everything they've accomplished in racing gives me the confidence that I'm putting a high-quality motor oil in my car. Valvoline is also the world's #1 supplier of EV battery fluids, offering tailored products to help extend vehicle range and efficiency. Valvoline is proud to be the official motor oil of Hendrick Motorsports, and this year Valvoline driver Kyle Larson was crowned the 2021 NASCAR Cup Series regular season champion with 9 wins and 2,000 laps led. Head over to your local auto parts store and ask for Valvoline Extended Protection Full Synthetic by name. Lastly, but certainly predictably, the moment we've been waiting for since September is finally here. Super Bowl is coming. in honor of Super Bowl 456, DraftKings Sportsbook, which is an official sports betting partner of the Super Bowl, is giving new customers 56 to 1 odds on either team. Bet just $5 and get 280 in free bets if your team wins. DraftKings has so many betting options and opportunities for me to win big prizes. It's the only place I will look in the sports betting market. DraftKings Sportsbook is now live in New York, meaning you can bet from almost a third of the country. If Sportsbook isn't in your state yet, play DraftKings Daily Fantasy Football Contest for Super Bowl 56. New customers can get a free shot at a $1 million top prize with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use promo code TIRE. Get 56 to 1 odds on either team. Bet just $5 and get 280 in free bets if your team wins. That's with promo code TIRE at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 56. 21 and over, minimum age and location requirements vary by jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for full list of requirements and state-specific responsible gaming resources. Void where prohibited. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Tennessee, call or text the Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789. In Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat. In New York, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY at 467-369. All right, folks, today Zach and I are recording this show from a hotel in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. We have just attended the Bridgestone Ice Driving Academy, courtesy of the kind folks at Bridgestone who sponsored our trip, in the hopes that we would talk about it on this show. Although we can say whatever we want, which is great, no problem at all. We've also been driving the Volkswagen GTI just a little bit, the new Mark 8. We had an amazing event with Collecting Cars and Chris Harris, who was in town over the last week, and more on the Smoking Tire Podcast. Well, road show. Here we are. My legs don't really fit under this little table.
I have a drawer for nothing.
The Soho. I almost said the Soho Grand.
Soho Grand.
This is the Steamboat Grand Hotel. Welcome, everybody. Zach and I are in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, doing the an event with Bridgestone tires, their ice driving experience, which, for reasons that don't really make any sense, we can't talk about until next week.
Right.
Right. You could show up there today and do it, and you could talk about it, but we can't.
Well, there's other waves coming in.
Yeah.
We're allowed to post photos about it, but not talk about what we did or what we drove or how they performed. The tire performed.
Right. So that has to wait for some reason until the 9th. But here we are in this delightful junior suite.
Yeah, it's nice.
Which is actually pretty nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty solid. With our camera mounted on some type of buck.
Yeah, I think it's an elk or something.
It's up there, and slightly hungover. Altitude drinking takes a little bit out of you. And last night we were at Double Diamonds, which on the outside looks like it's going to be a strip club, but then you go inside and it looks like one of those log cabiny dive bars.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is
There's not
very
a ton
weird.
going on, but I think it's the game in town. So if it's the weekend here and if it's busy, I bet it's jammed.
Well, and the hotel's not like in town; it's on the mountain, so it's like what you can walk to.
Yeah.
It's what you can walk to when it's 8 below zero outside.
Which it was, which is oddly cold here.
It was 22 below this morning. 22 below zero this morning. I haven't gone outside today.
No, thank you.
But we have the old late checkout, so we're doing a show on the road. Let's see. We have a few things to cover. How much? Because you have an E46 M3. We've discussed it. How much does it? Let me rephrase this. How does one deal with the many, let me rephrase. Something I really like about the Lamborghini Countach is that there are very few armchair experts. There are so few of those cars out there. And most people that have owned them were not the kind of people that worked on them themselves or drove them 100,000 miles or did things that abused them and whatever. And there's a few enough of them that they don't develop these sort of reputations, right? Whereas with the M3, everyone seems to be an expert.
Right.
Right. And everyone's, a lot of people's, I made this video with my car. We put it up. Fortunately, it was our #1 viewed video this week, which is great. Happy about that. Yay. I'm not really happy about that because it reinforces filming my own cars, which I fucking hate doing. But that being said, the number of not just comments on the video, but specific DMs and stuff that I've got saying that I need to do things that I don't believe I need to do. Such as preemptively reinforce the subframe, which is not cracked. Such as take the engine apart and inspect the fucking rod bearings, which are fine. Like when I bought this car, I went to probably the most thorough shop for BMWs in the country. A shop that will happily take your money to do all kinds of things with the cars. And I asked them about the subframe. And I asked them about the fucking rod bearings. And I asked them, and I was going to give them money to
fix the thing,
to preemptively reinforce the subframe. I'll pay you to do this before you send me the car. And their response from their expert who works on these cars all fucking day and only works on these cars is, this is a very low mile, very well cared for, cream puff car that has never seen a track day. It's never even seen a fucking rainstorm. We have inspected the subframe. I guess there's some kind of resinous coating. Something, whether it's like a waterproofing or a rubberized, and they can scrape a little bit of it off to inspect it.
Right.
And it's not something I would do at home, inspect it, but they have lifts and they're doing an enormous pre-delivery inspection, and they sent me 200 photos and they said, we have inspected it, yours is totally fine. And if you're not planning on doing any track days, which you're not, if you're not planning on doing any drifting, if you're not going to be doing burnouts or launching the car, and if you're just going to be cruising around and going up the canyons, this is not something you need to do. And when you take the car in for service, they have some places in LA, a couple places that they recommend that are really expert. They said when you get your service, which for me will probably be annual, not mileage based, they can put the car up on a lift and take off a couple of parts and inspect it every year for damage. And then if it's cracked, then you can do something about it. But they specifically said it does not need to be proactively done. The number of people, and I said that in the video, the number of people that have basically told me that that's stupid and I'm wrong, and that the people at EAG who told me that are stupid and they're wrong, was staggering. A staggering number of people. Which is so weird. It's just a weird thing. Like,
I feel like this is a problem that like NFL coaches deal with, or players, where so many people in the stands watch a play happen and it doesn't go the way they want. And they go, he should have done this. It's like, can you do that? No, you can't do that. But also, the person who is making the call on the play is an expert in this field.
Right.
So it's kind of armchair expert Monday morning quarterbacking. Like I feel like all these people use just anecdotal evidence. So they may have friends that have had these cars. Or they know people. And it's just one of those things that gets like stuck in the ether of like, if you own this, you have to do this. And they have that preloaded in their brain so that when you present other information, which this is a problem we're dealing with for the last couple of years, they have that solidified. And so whatever you say is not going to change what they believe to be true.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not like I'm like
nah, bro, fuck what everyone says. Like, I literally asked, like, the highest level expert I could find.
Right.
Like, the people that are the people that would happily take my money.
Well, I mean, also, like, I think we can't overestimate the number of people that know who EAG is. Like, a lot of people do.
Yeah.
But maybe not everybody. So if some of the commenters have never heard of that shop and what they do, they might just see it as Bob's Auto Service. And they're like, well, Bob's Auto Service doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah.
So.
But it's, to me, you know, I'm a big fan of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like, if there's really a huge problem that needs to be addressed, like, I'm not cheap. I'll fucking address it. Donnie's out there in the desert right now.
Right, rewiring the car.
Rewiring my Lamborghini from scratch. Like, you know, and he's probably, like, there's a fucking oil leak because that car, when it sits, leaks oil. It happened when it was at the Peterson, and the more I drive it, the more the oil soaks, you know, the seals fucking fill up with oil when you drive, and the less it leaks. But it's been sitting at Donnie's for like 3 months, it fucking leaks. So I'm literally, Donnie's going to take the engine out later this summer, and because of because he's like, I can't have it like this, and I'm like, well, can you just do the electrical and let me drive it for a while before you, so like, I'm not trying to say, and I'm certainly not trying to say that I'm smart, because I don't fucking know. I find the highest level expert up the chain I can find and ask them their opinion.
Right.
But just the number of people that told me that it was an enormous number of people that told me that this subframe thing absolutely must be done proactively.
Were they E46 owners, or?
I mean, some of them claim I owned one, you know. I've had a couple BMW. You know, there's people that say they've owned them, but like and it's not, that might be their experience. That whatever they're doing with the car, maybe they, you know, it was a variety of people.
Right. Well, I think we all filter the world through our own lens and our experience. So if if their experience with the car is, I cracked the subframe, or I drove the shit out of it, or whatever, then they go, you should do this.
Yeah.
That's the only frame of reference they have, which is just, I think, a problem we have when we try to relate to another person.
Well, and a couple people said that there was, I guess BMW had a recall.
They did.
Yeah. Right, which this one was done. The recall was performed. I have the receipt in the record. So, it was, so maybe...
For the subframe?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
So maybe it was done. But I guess whatever's done was done in the recall is not the same as the reinforcement.
Right. Well, so the recall, as I understand it, they basically use like an epoxy,
right,
to kind of glue the metal together.
Right.
And what the reinforcement that I did and what a lot of people do are welded in plates.
Right.
It's just, you know, you're just adding material to a stressed part of the car.
Right.
So yeah, a glue composite, at least the one they use, is not going to be as strong as welded metal. But for what you're doing, it's probably going to be fine.
Right.
You know, I think
for 2,000 miles a year in a car that has seen very few, you know, very little abuse and will see no abuse.
Right.
And is going to be checked over by experts more often than it needs to. There's, to me, no point to going further with this than I need to.
Right. I think that's fine.
Yeah.
I think it'll be fine.
I think it'll be totally fine. Yeah. I have no concerns.
And they can always inspect the rod bearings later if they didn't already. It's just I think you have to drop the front subframe to take the pan off, but you can use what's the oil testing site,
Blackstone, yeah,
and they'll test the metal, and then you can find out if they're going bad.
Yeah,
which I really hope isn't happening to mine.
But I mean, it's not like they go bad from age, they go bad from wear.
It's a wear item that shouldn't really be a wear item.
Right.
You know, metallurgy, cost savings, who knows what it is. But yeah, it just happens because the engine is used a lot.
Yeah. So it's not something I'm particularly concerned with. And like, all right, next oil change, Blackstone, like no big deal. I'll spend a fucking $100 to have my oil analyzed. Like, done it before. What car did we do that with?
I don't know.
I did it. Oh, with the Focus RS.
Oh, really?
Because of the head gasket thing. Remember
the Focus? You want to see if there was coolant in it?
The Focus RS, when they put the wrong head gaskets on the car, which mine did have the wrong one.
Right.
But it was, they said when they fixed it, the first thing I did was the Blackstone. That was my instant, like, let's see if there's coolant, and there wasn't. And then it was, well, your VIN was affected, so we have to change it. And then when they changed it, they said that it was only because of my mechanical sympathy that it didn't blow. Like, if I had beat the shit out of my car, it would have gone for sure. But because, even though the car was modified, like, because I used mechanical sympathy and didn't beat the shit out of my car, it held up.
Wow.
Yeah. So
so lucky.
Yeah,
you're pretty nice to cars. You are.
I am pretty nice to cars, especially my own cars.
Yeah,
press cars are designed for being hammered on, and even then, I'm pretty nice to cars.
I mean, compared to magazine tests that do 0 to 60 tests in a quarter mile,
fucking
that's
jump them
it's
or whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm most, and granted, I might be zeroing in on one negative thing, which I think is a thing I tend to do, or lots of folks tend to do, but I'm doing. But overwhelmingly, people were, fairly stoked about the M3, which is nice because I'm pretty stoked about the M3.
I mean, it's like a game of percentages. Like, I probably get 2 messages a week, maybe asking like, nice M3. Like, if I post a photo, I will definitely get a DM saying, nice car, have you done XYZ?
Yeah.
But you have 20 times the followers I do, or some crazy number. So like, just multiply that by 20.
It's just
a lot of people. I get it, and people want to make sure that your car works well and like doesn't destroy your wallet. But the problem is that like, if they had listened to, the first 6 minutes of the video, or just trusted your opinion. That's what it is.
Well, yeah, or what I guess what bothers me about it is this. I understand maybe you're trying to look out for me. Mm-hmm. But you're also making the assumption that I haven't done any homework at all. And yes, I did get hosed on the Ferrari. But I got hosed because the paperwork was fraudulent, not because I didn't ask to see it, or because, like, I don't know. I think it's frustrating because so many people think that I've never heard of those issues, even after knowing you.
I feel like we're, in a weird way, explaining what mansplaining is, and our 4 female listeners are like, "Yes, this is annoying," because you offer advice before someone asks for it. Because I know I'm guilty of this too. If someone says, I got I don't know, whatever car I used to have, like, I'll go, "Oh, do you do this thing? Isn't it great? Have you tried this?" And so when they respond, "Yes," I feel like an idiot. I'm like, "Oh, I should have asked instead of said."
So if the fucking subframe cracks, I'll fix it. But I don't think it is likely to under my stewardship.
Probably not.
And it certainly doesn't need to be done ahead of time. That's just time, money, weight, and it just doesn't need to be done if it's not damaged.
I think they did it. It was like $2,000 when I had it done. I mean, it's not it's not crazy, but it's not cheap because they have to take the whole axle off. And weld things.
Yeah. So anyway, that EAG's advice, which I believe because they sell the fucking freshest BMWs around, is that it doesn't need doing if in this particular case. If it was going to go to track days, if it was an 80,000 mile car that had seen, heavy use or unknown previous use, if you're going to go to fucking weekend drift days like you do with your car, do it.
Yeah.
But not if the car is super fresh and you intend to keep that going.
Yeah.
Anyway, we had 2 days with the GTI and then had to leave for Colorado.
Yeah.
We haven't driven in the canyons yet, but already I'm kind of rolling my eyes at this car.
Yeah.
It's the Autobahn. It's, I guess, as loaded as a GTI gets, pretty much being a press car, but it's over $40,000.
I know.
And it does not feel to me, just being in it, I was in it for 15 minutes, does not feel like a $40,000 car.
Yeah, like we noticed some weird things. The backs, the upper part of the back doors are hard plastic. They're different material because they've done some clever stuff where they go, well, not that many people sit in the back seat when they shop for a car, so we don't need to make this experience as nice. The back seat's not that comfortable. It's fine, but it's a little bit too upright in my opinion. And then your seat, the passenger seat, I think was it manual or
the passenger?
Manual?
Yeah, so it's the same thing with the WRX. Mm-hmm. The driver's seat is full power. The passenger seat has a power angle, mm-hmm. but manual slider and manual up and down.
Okay.
And for the fully loaded version, that seems a little eh.
Yeah, and they have a similar problem to what I think Audi had to go through for a while. When Audi started stripping out a lot of controls, remember they went to like minimalist design for a little while. Like the TTRS had this, where it was like you have a volume knob,
right.
the screen, and the touch screen. And I remember looking at that car and going, it appears cheaper because there's less to look at, which is a very simple human thing.
Right.
There's less shiny shit. But this car is so like devoid of controls. All you see is the plastic, and it kind of grabs your eye more. And then, of course, when you use the capacitive controls, they're
not so great.
No.
Yeah, but I mean, and I know cars have gotten more expensive, but I remember, I want to say it was 4 years ago, when my wife thought a GTI would be nice, and she went to look at a GTI, and it was like 37 grand, and we were like, no. Because it had all the stuff, right? It was a DCT. It had the leather. It had the HID lights, and you can get one without any of that stuff. But this thing is now in the 40s. And what was the last Veloster N we drove? The last Veloster N we drove was like 33.
Yeah,
and
like
really felt like just as nice, if not nicer. Definitely quicker.
Yeah, they make I can't
made a
remember the
better
power
sound.
numbers, but yeah, definitely made a better sound. And the interior on the Veloster is like simple, but it's very easy to use because it has real buttons. And that's something we're appreciating more and more.
Yeah.
Whereas this looks kind of nightclubby, and then just the function of sliding your finger to try to turn the volume all the way up or down, like you do multiple passes. Same thing with the HVAC controls, like it's just all of it. And then the MMI system is kind of weird and slow. Same one the ID4 had, which was not good.
Yeah, to turn off start stop is like through the touch screen. Like that's weird. Yeah. Like it's like if you're gonna go for minimalism, you really have to make the design a minimalism, like make it like the thing, right? Like I mean, I think Tesla does a pretty good job, even though with the Model 3, it's pretty obvious what they're doing with their minimalism. They're making it really inexpensively, is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
In
the
Volvo,
Mach-E's kind of minimal too.
The Mach-E is pretty minimal. And everything is through the screen, but it's a big screen, right. And the main thing, the climate controls stay up all the time. They're not in a menu, and the important stuff is not in a menu. It's up there the whole time. I don't know. Especially when you discover that the doors are different materials in the front and the back. I was like, oh, come on, like.
Yeah, and I know that. Like this test of changing the heat, hot and cold temperature really quickly isn't something we do very often. We tend to go up like a few degrees or down a few degrees. But when you're driving, and especially in the daytime, and you just like try to glance at that control, and it's a smooth piece of plastic with really small graphics for red and blue.
Yeah.
It's harder to find and harder to tap and harder to adjust. Whereas the Mach-E, like you said, it's a giant tablet, and those things are lit up. And yes, it's also something you have to reach and aim for with your eyes, but at least it's easier to find. I think. If you're going to go minimal, you need a big screen. Like it's the same thing. If you're going to replace the array of controls we used to have on the center console, you have to put them on the screen.
Yeah. So we'll actually have a dynamic impressions next week because we really have just puttered around town with it.
Yeah.
There was a story I was reading this morning. Did you read the USPS mail truck story this morning?
No.
So you've seen those new trucks? They look like sad ducks. You've seen these things, these trucks? They have these giant windshields, big vertical, and these sort of duckbill nose and full, kind of almost full height doors for and it's a new purpose built truck. So the Postal Service gave Oshkosh the contract, which is like a military kind of contractor in Wisconsin. Except the EPA has just released a report showing that not only are these things not going to be electric, 90% of them plan to be gas. Mm-hmm. The improvement in fuel economy compared to the Grumman trucks they're using now, 0.4 miles per gallon improvement. And the average efficiency of one of these trucks with the air conditioning on is 8.6 miles per gallon. And they're going to buy 150,000 of these things to replace. And the
to get 0.4.
0.4.
Wow.
With the air conditioning on, they average 8.6 miles per gallon. The electric vehicle expert said the industry standard for a gasoline-powered fleet vehicle is between 12 and 14 mpg. Now,
Well, these are doing a lot, way more stop and start.
well, to
Stop
me,
and go, rather, yeah.
I mean, sure, I guess, but I imagine that's I can't imagine that's not an apples to apples
That's right.
comparison.
That's right.
That's a fleet vehicle.
Well, the EPA is going to test it the same way as
Yeah.
it tests the other ones. That's a good point.
So it isn't. No, it isn't an 18% improvement in fuel economy compared to the current model. Having said that, the current model is from 1987 and doesn't have air conditioning. So if you drove it with the air conditioning off, it would get a little better, right? But what's crazy, it's crazy to me that especially in medium to urban environments, what has a more predictable use than a mail truck?
Mm-hmm.
It goes the same number of things every day, right? And like you said, lots of stopping and starting, lots of just sitting. I understand if some mail trucks have these very long routes in rural areas, okay, so that may not work for EVs. And I'm not like super, we all need to convert to EVs, but this seems like horrible.
Well, I bet building an EV would be more expensive. That's my guess.
Well, but they have a lot of money to do it. They've already gotten, Oshkosh is citing a non-disclosure agreement, which is ridiculous because it's a government contract. And they're not saying exactly how much they've been given, they've been given, I want to say it's 460, the agency would not say how much money it's already sent to Oshkosh, though the EPA's letter notes that it had awarded the contract and funded as much as $482 million to the vendor before conducting an environmental analysis.
Oh, wow.
So that seems pretty bad.
Yeah, you should test it first.
So and it also says that even though the post office does have a lot of debt because of that, they have to fund the pension for 75 years thing that's like insane, they also are flush with cash. Long-standing financial constraints. The agency's $206 billion in debt. That's the pension thing, right? They also have $23.9 billion in liquidity, and so they could invest in a commercial EV.
They could, but I mean, we don't know. We don't know how much more it would cost to get an EV version of this. So if they said, well, it's going to be 25% more. And now it's like, all right, well, now instead of spending $480 billion, we're spending $600 million. Now it's $600 million. Like, that's still money. So it's still math that we have to figure out.
Yeah.
But so is the MPG increase? Is it 18% from the previous truck, or is it 0.04 miles per gallon?
It's 18% is with the air conditioning off because they're comparing it to a truck that has no air conditioning. With the air conditioning running, it's only 0.4 miles better. 8.6.
Wow.
So that's really bad.
That just doesn't seem like enough of an improvement. I mean, I hope it's more comfortable for the employees, but.
And at first they said that they could build these gas things now and retrofit them to EV later, but now they've backtracked off that, and they said that they have no plan to retrofit any of them with EV powertrains. It ultimately says over 20 years, projected 20-year lifespan, greenhouse gases from these new trucks would total 20 million metric tons, roughly equaling the annual emissions from 4.3 million passenger vehicles.
Right, but I mean, what is that an improvement over the existing vehicles? Does it have that information?
It does. Well, it's an 18% drop in fuel from the current one, and I think it's proportional greenhouse gas emissions.
Okay.
It doesn't say the greenhouse gas emissions.
So like in a perfect world where you don't need air conditioning, it's saving money and fuel and emitting less, and
Right.
the engines may be cleaner.
Right.
But if the people are delivering mail in a hot climate where they want to use AC, then it kind of negates the point of all.
Right.
This. Wow.
Yeah. So it's pretty crazy to me how much money can be spent. Like that they spent $480 million without an environmental analysis.
Yeah, that's really surprising. You think they build one and then test it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm sure
or
they
at
built
least
a test vehicle
course.
to show off, and then that's how
Yeah.
they win the contract. But that's really surprising.
Yeah, I mean it's and it seems it sucks because like it's like these are they're used in people's in neighborhoods, and according to the EPA, according to this article, the EPA says 95% of current mail routes could be electrified, which I mean makes sense. I mean
Yeah.
you got to figure most mail trucks are driving less than 50 miles. It might take 8 hours. But most of them are driving less than 50 to 100 miles a day, which you could easily charge overnight on a basic level 2 charger.
For sure, yeah. Or
Yeah.
they could use, hydrogen or compressed natural gas. Like all the city buses in LA, I think use CNG, which is a lot cleaner in terms of emissions.
Yeah.
That's surprising, but I mean,
It's kind of
if they have to build, if they want to build one vehicle with one powertrain, if the same truck design that you're going to have in Los Angeles also needs to work in like outside Fargo, Minnesota, like you have to use the same engine. So if they don't have a charging infrastructure way out there, then,
if they could build 70% of them as EVs. I mean, an EV in a commercial truck, like that's pretty easy stuff at this point. It's like,
probably Rivian's doing a ton of them for Amazon.
Yeah, like it's a fucking battery pack in them. They don't need to go fast.
No, they don't. It'd be cool to talk to an engineer. Like, what is the cost increase?
Well, we're going to be talking to Riley Brennan on the podcast, who I met through Alex Roy, who is an expert in commercial and small scale mobility.
Oh, cool.
So everything from buses to scooters to trucks. Like he's like he knows all about that kind of stuff.
Awesome.
So that's going to be in a couple weeks, and we can talk to him about specifically that. But I mean, and granted, this is a feeling I have. It's not, but I feel like EV powertrains are developed enough at this point that to put one in a box.
Oh, I think
it only needs
easy.
to go
Yeah.
80 miles a day. It only and it's you've got it's a skateboard that we're just putting a metal box on top of. The feature, it doesn't need to be a luxurious vehicle. It just needs to have heat and air conditioning. Really,
it would absolutely be more ideal. And the writing, not the writing's on the wall, but like the test case or the proof case is Amazon. Amazon buying electric vans from Rivian. It's like they are also delivering parcels, and they are going with an electric vehicle.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the cost difference is between the two vehicles.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that'd be really cool to ask that guy these questions.
Yeah. But I was just, when I read the story, I was like, how do they spend $480 million without doing a test? Like, that's so much money.
I know, you think they'd build the one, they'd say, here's the thing, and the USPS goes, we like the thing, and they go, great, now before we order it, we're just going to go show it to the EPA and have them test it. Wow.
Pretty wild.
That's really well.
Yeah.
And
by the way,
plan.
this plan is to spend $11.3 billion over the next decade.
Is that a lot of money?
It seems like a lot for 165,000 new trucks. So they cost like $70K. It's like $68,000 a truck.
Wow.
Doesn't that seem high?
Yeah.
For an inefficient gas-powered commercial truck? That seems like, as someone on Twitter pointed out, that is roughly the cost and fuel efficiency of a Ram TRX.
Wow.
In that context.
Well, then they can just deliver in those.
They could just buy. Stellantis. We're going to need 165,000 TRXs.
Stellantis would love that if that happened.
Yeah, right.
Refill as well.
So anyway, that is, and on top of that, it's silly looking. I'm sure it's nice to drive compared to the Grumman mail truck. Anyway, it's cold here in Colorado. We have
20.
-20, baby.
-20. What the hell?
Speaking of things that here's why I have some personal experience. I'm building a building, and
What engine are you putting in it?
I'm putting big power, big EV. We're going to have four level 2 EV chargers because we have big power at the new building, which is nice. But I have to do an environmental testing just on my one little building for air quality, for like chemical vapors and stuff like that. And like I can't get a permit without submitting the results of my air quality test.
I don't know, man. Big business is weird. I don't know enough about it, but like the Nikola GM thing with the truck with rolling downhill, like people can sell things to people without having to prove a lot sometimes.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stuff. So I hope we find out more information about the USPS thing because I'm a supporter of them, but this seems like an error.
Yeah. We have a bunch of questions on the Patreon.
So many.
That we can fill the rest of this show with it.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully we won't get too repetitive.
Hopefully,
So hopefully we won't get too repetitive. But other than we didn't find out about this embargo with the Bridgestone thing until we got here.
That's true.
So we expected this to be like a show about what we spent all day yesterday doing, and that kind of jumped out and bit us, unfortunately.
Right. So that content will come out after February 9th.
Yeah.
So a week.
Yeah. We can say that we did have a few fans at the Bridgestone driving school. Some very nice instructors. One of whom was driving a Delica.
Really?
Yeah, Scott.
Oh, really?
The blonde dude.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he was driving a Delica that had like a big ski rack and a whole bunch of kit on it. It was pretty cool.
That's a good thing to putt around this area.
It was pretty cool.
As long as you don't have to go over the mountain to get back to Denver.
He had an upgraded fuel system and turbocharger. He had the kit to go a little quicker. Yeah, they have a stage 2 Delica kit. All of our questions come from our Patreon. Thank you to everyone who supports the podcast on the Patreon. You can be a pit crew member for $3, and you get access to the live stream, which unfortunately today's internet in our hotel will not support, but normally it does. $8 a month. You don't have to listen to me read ads ever. You get both video and audio versions with no ads. Your own separate feed, and then of course the pro driver level, you get everything from tier 1 and tier 2, plus you don't have to wait till Tuesday and Thursday to watch the show. You get it the same day it is recorded, and you can also get ad-free, etc., plus you get the 9th show, the extra show every month that's just for you. So anyway, you can join that at patreon.com/thesmokingtirepodcast. Okay. Damir Basic says, is it worth it to update my 2020 GTI Autobahn to the Mark 8? We're both in the Google Doc. You can highlight and I will see.
Oh, cool.
So that's
cool. I looked up the interior of this car.
Of the 2020?
The 2020, because that's what I don't like about the new one.
I like the old one. The old one I liked better.
Yeah, I mean, this is really nice.
Yeah.
It's easy to control everything.
I would say no.
It looks about the same. Yeah,
so far, my thoughts are no.
I would say no.
Alan says, what are your thoughts on... Did you happen to look at the tires on this car? On the GTI? Okay, Alan, we don't know if this is accurate to our test, but Alan says that VW is putting cheater RE71R tires on all GTI press cars that are not available on cars people can buy. And the question is it disingenuous to misrepresent the available performance?
Yeah.
If a manufacturer is equipping press cars with a tire that is not available for customers to buy, I do think that is disingenuous.
I do. I think that would be really rare, though. And then someone replied to them, which actually helps provide more context. That is, if sometimes we get cars in America that are Euro spec, like that you can't buy here. Like the Golf R that we got for rated was a Euro spec car, slick top, and so they could give that car tires that you can get in Europe, but you can't get in America. So that can be confusing.
Yeah, if we're driving press cars that are Euro spec cars because the American spec cars aren't available yet, that is one thing.
Right.
And usually if that happens, I mean, a fucking half-decent automotive journalist would note that they are driving a Euro spec car, and here are the things that are unavailable. For instance, we drove that lime green Macan GTS. The lime green Macan GTS was a Euro car. It had ceramic brakes. Ceramic brakes are not available at all on US Macan GTSs, not even as an option. So our test car did have equipment that was not available in the US. I've driven Porsche is especially, this happens a lot because because Porsche Cars North America has to buy retail units from Porsche Cars AG. And so so a lot of times they will send a demo or two over to America for us to get for us to review, and then they'll have the regular fleet cars later. So we'll look when we get back. I didn't look. This is not a Euro car though.
I don't think so. I asked if it was pre-pro. That was one question I had because there's a weird clunky shimmy in like the front right suspension. So hopefully I'll have more information about it.
We'll make sure to look at the tires when we do the video and for next week's podcast. But if they're putting cheater tires on and not just sending a Euro spec car that comes with different tires, then that's bad.
Right.
Anyone doing that would be bad. I haven't really seen that before. The only time I've seen that is occasionally when, in the winter, a manufacturer will have snow tires put on a car, which you wouldn't buy the car new with snow tires on it, but it allows you to have the loan in winter.
But I'd be very surprised for an OEM to put cheater tires on it, because if they gave it to Car and Driver, Road and Track, like any of these magazines that tend to do more instrumented testing, they'd get called out for it immediately.
Yeah. What did Harris? What is that? Gunner?
What did Harris think of your Seiko?
Harris liked all my Seikos, and he's going to be ordering the P. Dubé Taxar one, the black one. He said that is the. Wait. Side note: my name is
his name is. It looks like Gunner Ray, but he says it's pronounced Gunneria.
Oh,
because he didn't want to give Zuckerberg his real name.
Oh, that's hilarious. He basically said once he saw my Seikos, he was like, why would I ever spend thousands of dollars on a watch again? And he has a point. What is the point of 4K video and 120 frames per second if it gets compressed wherever you post it?
Well, 120 frames per second is slow motion.
Yeah,
so
we don't shoot that. We shoot 60.
We shoot 60. So that's why you would post that. And yes, it gets compressed, but if you put up 1080 that gets compressed, it looks worse than if you put up 4K that gets compressed.
Right. And also if you shoot 4K and you have to zoom in for some reason or make an adjustment, if it's not quite level and you have to punch in 10% to make an adjustment, you still have a very high quality file. But starting at a higher point always is better.
Yes.
Zach Carnahan says, lately I've been eyeing legally imported cars, specifically Toyota Centuries, Hiluxes, and Land Cruisers. Is there anything I should know before buying? I'm worried about registration and insurance, parts, service, and selling the car in the future. Yeah, I mean, you should be. I mean, but the good news is every one of those things there is available knowledge on. First off, you don't have to import it yourself.
Right.
You can buy these cars either from private owners or from importers, and they'll have the paperwork done. It'll have a U.S. title. It'll have you obviously, before you buy one of these cars, you would call your insurance company. It's like one phone call. Hey, I'm thinking of buying an imported Japanese car. It has a U.S. title. Can I insure it, and how much does it cost? My Delica is insured with Hagerty, and it is absolutely no problem. Car has a U.S. title. No big deal. The process of doing the importing can be monstrously annoying. And having done it for a customer of mine at the shop, the process of getting a car CARB certified in California is extra annoying and extra expensive.
Yeah.
So, but parts and service, I mean, there are forums and Facebook groups, and if you call whatever the nearest importer is to where you live and say, I want to buy a Hilux, who can work on it, they'll tell you. I mean, it is possible, like for Delicas, all the Delica parts come from a place the easiest place to get them is from a place called Coombs Country Autos, which is in Vancouver. For 6 months in 2020, it was fucking impossible to get parts over the border in Canada, and that was a whole separate issue. Now it's not a problem anymore. You know, these are things you should know, you should get into. You know, before buying a car, you should realize that the market, when you go to sell it, might be a little more limited. The parts may be a little harder to come by. Certain things could be a little more annoying, but they are not unknowns. They are knowns. You just have to do a little digging and get those answers. So.
Yeah, and I think the Hilux and Land Cruiser are both such popular and sought after vehicles. I feel like those would be much easier to sell than a Century. But like, it's nice that he's not going for really obscure imported cars.
Yeah, the weirder and more obscure the car, the harder a time you're going to have for getting parts.
Yeah.
Hiluxes, Land Cruisers, they made a lot of those, and there's a huge aftermarket. There's ongoing support. There might even be factory support. I mean, Nissan has factory support now for R32, 33, and 34 Skylines. Like the best place in LA to get a Skyline serviced is fucking Fontana Nissan. It's a dealer.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know where you are in the country, but wherever you are in the country, find the nearest qualified importer. Start asking them questions. Ask your insurance provider. You know, if I've got a JDM car with a U.S. title, is that going to be a problem? You know, selling the car in the future, you can, look on Cars and Bids, look on Bring a Trailer and see what these things are going to get. I mean,
I've seen Japanese, like there was a Japanese imported 4Runner. It was called like a Surf. It was
Hilux Surf.
Dude, it was awesome.
Yeah.
With like fender flares and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it was going for very good money on one of the auction sites.
Yeah.
And people were talking about it because they're awesome.
If you're willing to drive on the right-hand side of the car, which is an inconvenience, I'm not going to say it's not, it is. But if you're willing to drive, you can get a nicer car. If you're willing to drive on the right-hand side, your money will go further in a JDM car than it will in a US car. Mm-hmm. You'll save money going in. You might get a little less for it coming out, but it's all good.
Yeah,
it's all good. Those cars are getting popular. I mean, the 25-year import now that car purchasing is done globally and online. Buying a car from another country is not such a big deal.
Yeah, if it was 1987.
Yeah, the resources are so they're out. The resources are out there, and there's clubs, there's forums, there's Facebook pages, there's a lot of businesses that focus exclusively on importing these cars, and even a lot of them like Top Rank Importers, where I got my Delica, my Scott, like they have a whole FAQ. On their website, and if that doesn't answer your question, you could just call them up and say, here's what I'm looking for, what am I getting into? Buy Me a Juice says, do you think the 718 Cayman GTS 4.0 is in a good sweet spot? I'm waiting on one, but having FOMO about a GT4 secondary car, maybe a couple track days a year. Canyons and LA roads are bumpy. We both really like the GTS 4.0. It's a great car.
Yeah.
It in most ways is every bit as fast as the GT4. Mm-hmm. It's easier to use every day than a GT4. It's not as stiff on the, like you said, bumpy roads. Very fun in the canyons.
And it would be fun on a track.
Yeah.
They're set for that.
Yeah.
So I think that's the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
The FOMO will be real with anything that's cooler, quote, air quotes, than what you're getting, but I think you will be happier with the car you are in line for already.
Yeah. I mean, it's very, very nice. The only other suggestion is if you can find an Evora GT laying around. Mm-hmm. You're in if he's this makes me think they're in LA.
Yeah.
There's probably a couple brand new Evora GTs around. That'll probably be about the same price, and they are very nice to use every day. In fact, I was having a conversation at Bluey's last weekend for that big collecting cars thing with a local dude I know named Omar, who has a Boxster Spider and an Evora GT.
Nice.
And he said that for most occasions he prefers the Evora because it's easier to use on the street.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that also because of the top?
Top and the bucket seats and the ride. He said
The ride is so good.
The ride is really good in the Evora.
Good.
So I mean, yeah, we like the GTS 4.0. We have videos of the Cayman GTS. We have videos of the Boxster GTS. They're delightful.
I'm not sure how to answer that.
I don't know. Skip that one. Let's see. Miguel Flores, did we hear about the Tesla recall? Of course we did. Follow me on Twitter if you want all of my thoughts. There's 2 Tesla recalls. There was another one today.
Really?
800,000 cars recalled today. The one today was not as egregious. The big one was the 50,000 cars that had the FSD beta installed, had a mode that you could set. You could set the car to like passive, normal, or aggressive. I don't think the passive mode is actually called passive, but it's like conservative, normal, aggressive.
Right.
And in the aggressive mode, it would do California rolls through stop sign.
That's in the setting?
It's in the setting. You could set it to do that. What? It wouldn't fly through the stop sign at like 10, but it would go between 1 and 5 miles an hour, straight California roll.
Wow.
Which the idea that that's insane. It's
you're programming something that's illegal.
You're programming the car to break the law.
Yeah. Wow.
And I differentiate this. One might say, well, you can set your cruise control over the speed limit. Yes, you can. But the reality of driving is that if you could only set cruise control at the speed limit, you'd be like a moving roadblock on most freeways. Most U.S. freeways do go above the speed limit.
The percentage of people on a highway that are going a little bit above the speed limit is far greater than the number of people who kind of roll through a stop sign.
Correct. And it's very objective rolling through. I've been ticketed for it. Remember I got ticketed on Tracy's Vespa for rolling through the stop sign directly in front of my house?
Yeah.
My old house in Redondo Beach, the driveway was 25 feet from a stop sign, and the stop sign was the top of a very big hill. And if I stopped at the stop sign, this was a 50cc Vespa. I literally could not get going again. So I had to roll through the stop sign and then just quick right into my driveway. And I was ticketed for that. And oh, by the way, her insurance had lapsed on the fucking Vespa, and it turned into a $1,000 ticket. So
that was a fun day.
It was a disaster. But the idea that you could program a car to roll stop signs is crazy.
It's also far less safe, in my opinion, to roll through a stop sign and have it programmed in where it's defaulting to that than for people to go 5 over on the highway.
Right.
Because there's no people crossing the street on the highway.
Right.
For the most part.
Tesla said that they did it to make the passenger experience more comfortable.
Oh, shut up.
Which is insane.
What do they do at red lights? Is the passenger uncomfortable something?
Yeah, it's definitely more comfortable if I just like run over people.
I remember when I was learning to drive, my mom showed me, as you come to a stop, you just let off that little bit and then stop again.
Yeah.
And it like settles the car more gently.
Right.
And that's what I always do, and it definitely makes a difference.
Yeah.
They should program that.
So that was recall 1.
Okay.
And again, these are software recalls. You obviously you don't need to bring the car to the dealer. They're over-the-air updates, right? And so the other one was there was a...
Do you think the Tesla robot will just break into houses because they have a setting called like acquire new goods, and then they'll have to undo it?
Setting called gain value.
Yeah, like bouncer status, and it just guards your house. Like this isn't fun. Anyway,
so remember. Yeah, gain value.
Accrue assets.
Like the other one was for a seatbelt chime.
Mm-hmm.
That would be like if the car was doing something and you were moving in the seatbelt chime, there was a way to basically, if you clicked it and unclicked it quickly, the chime wouldn't come back on.
Mm-hmm.
Relatively minor problem, okay? Easily fixable but to me, it's a little bit, and Ed Niedermeyer on Twitter pointed this out, if they couldn't get this one right, if if a totally connected computer system couldn't get the seatbelt shot, do you trust them to build an autonomous vehicle?
Oh.
It's a very minor thing that indicates sloppiness. And so that's an 800,000 vehicle recall for this. Again, software over-the-air update. But what is important to me is that they are using the term recall, because recalls, as opposed to what Tesla has been doing for years, which is just updates. An update is not done in an official capacity with the government,
right.
NHTSA, and all that stuff. When you use the word recall, it is now it's on the record, right? It goes towards the safety and reliability rankings and all that kind of shit.
Right.
And the article on the Reuters article on Twitter that talked about this recall, there was a super Tesla stan who replied to the tweet that was like, "We need to stop using the word recall. It's a software update and it's driving the stock value down." Like, it's like, wow, you are screaming the quiet part.
No OEM wants to be recalled. When the C8 Corvette came out, they had the front trunk problem, and for the first announcement was, we can fix this locking mechanism with an over-the-air update. The next week, it was like, no, we can't.
Yeah.
Like, it's opening on cars while they're driving. That's a problem. They have to fix the latch. It's
Yeah.
a mechanical issue. Yeah, it made the car look bad. Everyone made fun of the C8 for like a month because of that. And then everyone just judged the car and its merits, and no one gave a shit. So like, that's what happens. If there are problems, they need to be addressed. And this is why you have a governing body.
Official way. And so the rolling stop signs thing was
really
crazy.
I see people. I know that a four-way stop, and there are people that just don't give a fuck in all kinds
There's
of cars.
a stop sign directly in front of my house, and hundreds of cars a day run it. But those are humans, and if there was a cop there, every one of those people would get fucking tickets.
Yeah.
It's not there. You can't sell a car that is programmed to do that.
To break a law.
That's just crazy.
Yeah.
Sean Gallagher, a 7-day trip from upstate to New York to Europe for the wife, centered around one of the following events. Costs no option: 24 hours of Nürburgring, Spa, or Le Mans.
I've only been to 24 hours of Le Mans, so I can't really speak on the others. I've heard the Nürburgring is a crazy party in the woods around the Nürburgring. If you're into that, go to that.
Yeah. I think Spa would probably be the most civil. Le Mans will be the nerdiest.
It's nerdy.
Yeah. I hope your wife likes racing, because to take your wife to a 24-hour endurance race, that's like a real nerdy thing to do.
I mean, the Le Mans was okay because the stands like right in the whole front area with Dunlop Hill and the S's, like pretty good viewing there. And then we went back to the house and watched on TV for a few hours, like while we slept, and then went back and filmed in the morning. So it seemed pretty accessible, and the village that when they fill the town the day before the race, that's cool. That is a really cool experience. Nürburgring is gigantic. Obviously, you can't see very much of it.
Yeah, but you can go to around. There's
different corners.
There's other stuff to do. I think I would probably go to Nürburgring. I think because it's just.
If you could drive it a few days after, probably not. I bet you can't drive it before.
You probably can't drive it before, but you might be able to do it after.
That would be a reason to go to that.
Yeah. I don't love this question, Chris Navio. Where do you see 991.2 GT3 prices being in 5 years? I mean, there are so many
factors with that.
Yeah, that we can't control or don't even know.
Right.
We could not have predicted in 2019 that a global pandemic would affect the entire auto industry
in the positive direction in terms of price.
Right.
And also, the last 2 months we've seen the entire stock market drop a lot. So is that going to continue? There's just too many things that influence the prices of expensive used vehicles.
Yeah, and 5 years. I mean, that's like at the end of the production run of the current GT3. Maybe even past that.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to get just look at previous GT3s. To look at the 997s. They went down and then are now back up and more expensive than ever.
Yeah.
991.2 GT3s already went down. They were down to 140, 150, and now they're back up. And so I don't see them really crashing down again anytime soon because there's more people than ever before who want Porsche GT cars.
I feel like on a 10-year horizon, they'll continue trending upwards, but I feel like 5 years, because there's so many things happening with like inflation and interest rates and stuff, that's like in this weird pocket of maybe too soon.
Yeah. This first question is about Bridgestone winter driving. We'll talk about that next show. Steven said, did anyone expect that many Porsches at the Collecting Cars meet?
Yes.
Yeah. Have you ever been to LA?
They're everywhere.
Have you ever been to, I mean, not to be a dick, but like, that's what, like, LA is like 30% of the sports car market is Porsches in LA.
Yeah, and they show up. I mean, they really do. Like,
Yeah.
I like Ferraris, I like all the other ones, but the Porsche community is denser and they're a lot more active, it seems.
But also, there was like, I mean, there was a bunch of other, I mean, there's Ferraris. There was, yeah, I mean, I thought, yeah, Jenson Button rolled up in his E-Type. There was a Persang Bugatti. There was Maserati MC12s and Zondas. There was a bunch of Lambos. I mean, I didn't think that there were more Porsches than any other, than like in a
No,
any
like the
other
BMW
thing.
club was rolling just as deep as the Porsche club.
Yeah.
There were so many E36s and Z3 Coupes and stuff around. Yeah.
I didn't really leave the main Bluey's parking lot. I didn't really go out to Nebraska Avenue.
Oh, okay.
So there might have been.
If you went right, it was lots of E36s. Very clean ones, very nice ones.
I thought that it was accurate to the cross section of the area. Yeah. Shop Mr. Nailhead, shopping for an under $30,000 car. Is it worth the price jump, approximately $5K, to go from a Civic Sport to a Civic Si? I think it is. The Civic Si has lots of updates that you really can't do in the aftermarket. Like, they just it's got like, I mean, you could do it, but you wouldn't. It's got a lighter flywheel. It's got different, a different steering rack. It's got stuff that make it a lot nicer to drive, and it comes with more standard equipment.
Well, okay, the 2022 Civic Sport hit 60 in 9.2 seconds.
That is not fast.
The last gen Civic Sport hit 60 a second faster, half a second faster. So that's probably a reason to not get a new Civic Sport. It actually got half a second slower, according to Motor Trend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know enough about the two cars to know like what other structural or hardware differences there are between them. But
I mean, the SI gets better seats. It has that great shifter. It has really good driver's inputs. I think it probably is. Yeah, I think it is. The Civic Sport is like a fine around town car that has like good space and is like pretty well made, but it's not fun or fast. If you want a sporty car, even the SI is not fast, but it has good inputs and is enjoyable to use.
Yeah.
CR907, the differences between the E46 and E92 M3. I've said this a bunch. This seems to get asked a lot. I like the size, shape, driving position, and engine of the 46 better. The V8 is a really nice engine. Mm-hmm. In a sedan form especially, I do like that one. But obviously, I've bought the 46. So it's not a would I could have bought an E92 M3 if I wanted one, but they don't speak to me as much. I'm not interested in a 10-year-old iDrive system at this point.
That's true.
I don't like, in the coupe, the E92 has really big doors, which is something I don't like, because you can't park it close to stuff. That annoys me. I'm not gonna like shit on it. It's a nice car, and the engine is certainly pretty cool, but it's not the one for me. I mean, they are completely different cars. They don't really feel the same at all. Mm-hmm. But I think the size, shape, and vibe of the 46 is definitely more me. What does this
I think we answered this.
We
at the
answered
top,
Ted
actually.
Reed's. Yeah, we answered Ted Reed's question here. And Ted also says appreciation for the fact that we look at date codes on tires. Yes, look at date codes on tires. Matt says, what watch did I trade to get the Daytona? I traded my AP Royal Oak. I actually traded my AP Royal Oak and got money back on that Daytona. That's an interesting one. That watch doubled in value in 3 years.
Jeez.
And if I was a more savvy watch investor than I am, I would have kept it because it's gone up since then. It's worth even more.
Jeez.
And I got rid of it. But there was something I wanted more, and I thought I would wear more, and I traded it for that Daytona that I'm wearing in the M3 video, and I actually got cash back, which was
And you like it more, so that's
and I like it more, which
Yeah.
is pretty cool. Dan Mosqueda, did I get a chance to drive Freddie's McLaren? Negative. I don't know why. I think he said he was going to send it out here for something, and I could have a go, but no, I didn't. I mean, I've driven another 675 LT. You can go see video on that.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine it would be the same.
I hope it feels the same.
should feel the same.
It should feel the same if he repaired it correctly.
If it feels the same, and if his has air conditioning, that would make it better than the one I drove. Because the one I drove was $400,000 and had no air conditioning.
Because it's the lightweight car.
It was. Richard H. Is the rear-wheel drive Taycan a $100,000 driving experience? I made a video with the base rear-wheel drive Taycan. I found it very delightful. You should go watch the review. And it is, I found it to be incredibly desirable, that car. Really nice car. Very, very fun. And is it a $100,000 drive? Of course, because the thing about it is that it's still fast. And it's still built like a Porsche. And it still looks, it looks like all the other Taycans, basically. Not that the turbo has some more stuff, but like electric cars, and we've talked about this before, are different than gas cars in that they feel exactly the same. Like whether you have the 1,000 horsepower one or the 200 horsepower one, at low speeds they feel exactly the same. Mm-hmm. It's not like a GT3 versus a Carrera where the GT3 vibrates differently, sounds differently, the shifter feels different. They're the same.
Right.
So unless you're actually smashing the throttle to the floorboard all the time, the experience is the same. So Randy, have we ever been to the Pittsburgh Vintage Grand Prix? No, we've heard nice things. We've heard nice things though. People have recommended that as a thing to do. If you're in that area, you can. I don't like racing enough to fly somewhere to watch a race, but I've heard nice things. Leonard Meredith says, I'm going to take your advice and attend Rally Ready School in Texas. Great choice, sir. What other driving schools and tracks do you recommend? Wow, I own a 458 720S and a Huracan Evo.
Graduated from muscle cars, so these are very, very high level.
Well, I hope you've done some driving schools to fuck. Those are some really fast cars. I hope you've done some. The rally schools are great. I mean, do all of them. Do Team O'Neill, do Dirtfish, do Rally Ready. You know, learning about weight transfer will make you such a better driver, and rally school is the best place to learn about weight transfer.
Leonard. If the Ron Fellows School at Spring Mountain has C8 Corvettes now,
they must.
That would be great because all his new cars are really fast in their mid-engine. So that's a really good high-performance driving school that has mid-engine cars, and you can do a 3-day level 1 program and hang out in Pahrump, and then if you wanted to do even more than that, you can do an advanced class afterwards, which is another 2 days. I would recommend that strongly.
I would say, based on their website, that they are running C8 Corvettes.
Nice.
The 2-day advanced, 2-day track masters. The photos all show C8 Corvettes.
All right.
Yeah, definitely. And Spring Mountain's a lovely place too.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely encourage a trip to Spring Mountain to do that school if you wanted to do a tarmac school. That's a really professional operation. What's the 2-day advanced track days school? All right. Was it Strom Speed?
Yes.
I live in Phoenix and I need to do some serious long trips between Phoenix, LA, and Vegas. I need something that's economical, used, but also fun to drive the canyons. This car would only be for this. Is a GTI my only choice? No, it's not your only choice. It's a nice choice. Used. I mean, if there's a Focus ST left that's not been beat up, those are nice.
Yeah.
The
Lexus GS350 F Sport.
GS350 F Sport. I don't know how economical it is, but they're nice. Even the IS, the smaller engine IS, the turbo motor one, those are okay. Mm-hmm. They're pretty fun. Audi S3, used Audi S3 is great. I like those a lot. I just did 1,200 miles in 4 days in the new Audi S3, and it was very comfortable. They have great seats. The Mercedes GLA 45 used has very nice seats and is reasonably economical.
It really depends on the budget, which Strom, you didn't list, but I think all those things we listed are like what, 30s and 40s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you start, you start in the $20,000 range. I mean, yeah, GTI seems to be like pretty much the obvious.
Or a last gen Civic Si or something like that.
Yeah.
It's fun enough. It's not the best long distance commuter, but it's okay.
The problem is these long straight desert roads and canyons and economical. Those are like three not really over. I mean, it's not like they're not overlapping, but they're not that overlapping.
Oh yeah.
Housekeeping. We need 20 minutes, please.
Yeah.
Thank you, housekeeping. Late.
I think I would focus on reliable GT car, because if you're driving Phoenix to LA to Vegas, those are huge miles. So the percentage of miles you're driving in the canyons is going to be 10% compared to what you're doing on the highway. So you want something. I would want something that's very comfortable, seat wise, and quiet at 85 miles per hour.
BMW 328 diesel.
Oh yeah.
Vinny got one of those. The wagon, the 328 Sport Wagon, super comfortable, 45 miles a gallon on the highway. Still fun enough to drive. Like, you could definitely go up the canyons. It had the sport suspension.
There you go.
And they're probably in the high 20s used. I would do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's for a lot of miles. That car was super sweet. I missed that car. That car was really nice. Yeah, 328.
How much did he get that for?
He bought it for 30, and it had, I think, 28 or 29,000 miles on it, and it got totaled. But I think that's a good choice.
Yeah, that was a good car.
Yeah, that's the F80 328 diesel wagon was excellent. Yeah. As people who have driven Daxa, people who have driven a lot of other people's engine-swapped cars, do you prefer the concept of swaps that keep it in the family, or the completely insane ones? I don't care. I care if it works. That's all. I mean, if you're going to swap an engine, I just want it to work and match, either match the character of the car or radically transform the character of the car in a very positive way. There's other things, like, besides who makes the engine, that can affect it, like
what's the power band, what's the
like the weight of the engine or the placement of it. Like, when I drove that Fiero that had the Mitsubishi Evo motor in the back, like, in theory, why wouldn't that be awesome? Well, it's not awesome because the Mitsubishi transverse layout when you put it in the back, it puts the engine on the driver's side of the car, which, when you combine the engine being on the driver's side of the car offset with the driver being on the driver's side of the car turned left way better than it turned right, because the weight distribution was all fucked up.
That's weird.
Yeah. So, like, those kinds of things matter too.
Yeah. I think I think it's cool when the engine stays in the family. Like, it does add a little, like, I don't know, I shouldn't say quite like something if someone puts a BMW V8 instead of an inline six. But ultimately, it's about, is the car going to work, and is the character what you want out of it? And I think that's more important than just choosing an engine from the same family, especially if you're going to swap an engine and it's more complicated. Like, if you put a BMW V12 in an M3, now you've got something that's way more complicated from the same family, but, like, is it better?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I care more about if you've improved the car than who makes the engine. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Edgar wants to know how my weed break is going. I have not smoked weed since August 4th of... I guess it's been a while, hasn't it? It's been some time.
It's like 6 months, right?
How's my anxiety? I mean, I don't know. I think I have less anxiety, certainly in the short term. Like, waking up, having a big-ass cup of coffee, and then smoking weed creates a short-term anxiety of how am I going to get all this stuff done in the day that I need to get done. So I don't have that anymore. On the other hand, I drink more wine, which means I put on weight, which makes me depressed. So I'm definitely less anxious, but more depressed.
Which is better?
I don't know. They both are terrible. I don't want to go back to smoking weed because somehow I would feel like I'd failed, even though that's not how life works. And I definitely like miss weed sometimes, like when I smell weed or if I do something like go to a concert. Like when I went to see Pearl Jam and I was like at Ohana and like 100% of the people were fucking smoking weed. And I was like, this would be the right time for this. In general, it's probably been a net positive, despite the fucking fact that I put on 15 pounds and had to buy bigger pants, which makes me really, really depressed. Like, really depressed. Like, I was a waist 38 from 2019 until a week ago. Mm-hmm. And I had, especially when the pants go from 38 to a 40, that number...
Oh, when the 3 becomes a 4?
When the 3 becomes a 4, oh my God, that's so fucking depressing, dude. That sucks balls for me, because it's so hard to go the other way. Mm-hmm. And I equate so much of my self-worth with, do I feel skinny or do I feel fat? Or do I have to look at myself on camera a lot. Sitting in a car on a wide-angle lens is like the least complimentary pose you could be in. If you're not very thin already. And so I fucking hate looking at myself so much. And so yeah. So I have to trade anxiety for depression, which sort of sucks balls.
Well, I mean, it's not like you have to choose one or the other. It's just that's where you are now.
Yeah.
But I feel like you can get out of this as well. Plus, December is... Everyone gains weight in December. It's like you have 40 cakes and wine every other day.
No, I know. And that happens. Thad came home, so we're drinking all this wine, and we're going to we're trying new restaurants and shit like that, and I lost a bunch of weight at the beginning of the pandemic, but that wasn't really realistic. It was artificially constricted because I couldn't go to restaurants. So I'm cooking chicken and vegetables at home every day, and the shop wasn't open. We weren't traveling for work, so I had all this time in the world to fucking exercise and do all this shit.
Right.
And so but that's not real life.
Yeah, it's hard like this morning our breakfast was a croissant and bacon sandwich.
Yeah.
Like that's not good for us.
That's not good.
Yeah.
But it's so that. But I haven't smoked weed, so I guess
it'll be 6 months tomorrow.
It will be 6 months tomorrow. Mm-hmm. How about that? Yeah. Last one, right? The last
yep.
one, yeah. Daniel Berman, interesting to watch me drive the M3 on Angeles Crest. I drive the same roads in my 135 and watching you guys test press cars. I always felt that I don't use the car to its full potential. It was refreshing to see how you treated a car whose longevity is important to me. It's not just a car whose longevity is important to me. It's a 17-year-old car. It just doesn't feel... It's not as rewarding for me to try to, like, push that car. Mm. It's also... on the video, like, I drove my car like I just drive when I'm not on camera. Like, it was more like that. Like, I drive press cars more like that when I'm not... Like, when I'm on camera... I'm going quicker because I know people want to see that. When I'm not on camera, I don't really normally drive like that.
Mm-hmm. Which I think lends to Daniel's statement of, like, he feels like he's not driving his car to the full potential. Like, that's fine. Just drive however you want to drive. You don't have to get every 10th out of your car. And
you shouldn't even
you're not
try
trying to live up to some expectation that you've created based on who knows what.
Yeah, and by the way, try to get to 10/10ths in your own car in the canyons is how you crash your fucking car.
Yeah, don't do that.
I mean, I can't tell you the number of conversations I've had with people at Newcomb's Ranch that talk about being scared in the canyons or getting their car loose in the canyon. Like, I've had these conversations over the last few weeks over and over with a huge number of people, and I'm like, why the fuck are you doing that? Mm-hmm. And part of the reason, and I don't say it to be mean, but I'm like, we're not up here for that. Like, that's not why I don't come to the canyons to find the limit of grip.
Right.
And even in a press car, if we're going quick, traction control's not turned off. You never see ABS getting engaged. You don't see, except in a very, very rare occasion, you don't see the car moving without 100% of its grip. These new cars are very, very fast and very, very capable. And if you're smooth, you can drive them quickly and still be totally in control, totally safe, and not anywhere near the limit of that car. Mm-hmm. In a 17-year-old BMW, even one on good tires, the limits are substantially lower. They are. If I really wanted to fucking ring it out for every last 10th, I probably could. But I don't want to drive my own car like that. I don't enjoy that, really. It's not let's see what this thing will do. And most of the time, I think if you see us going faster in press cars, it's a testament to how fast cars have become, and B, the fact that they're not designed to last at all. You know, the day after we make that video, it's someone comes to pick it up and you never see it again.
Well, they eventually crush it, right?
Yeah, sometimes they do. Yeah. So, you know, whatever longevity is in that car's future, it's far from your problem.
I think you should just drive your speed, and your speed should be responsible. But what I've heard some people talking about up at Newcomb's as well is people that are new to the canyons and they have friends that are in that world, and they were like, man, I followed these guys up here, it's my first time, holy shit, that was scary. I was trying to keep up. It's like, don't try to keep up. Like, that's the thing, is people that may have been driving there for 5 or 10 years or have a higher threshold for danger than you, just drive your car and do it safely and just learn about that.
Dude, when I drove the other day, the week after I filmed the BMW, I took the M3 back to Good Vibes at Newcomb's Ranch, and I went up there with Byron Bowers and Reggie Watts. And Byron's in his 997, and Reggie's in his Taycan Turbo S. And as we started to go up the canyon, I was leading. About halfway up, we kind of stopped for a second, and they were like, how come you're going so slow? And I was like, well, I'm in an older car, and I'm also just like not trying to like mob, right. And I was like, if you guys want to fucking go, like, I don't, no one elected me in front, I just happened to be there, like, but fucking go ahead. And they went ahead, and after that, I dropped way back because there was gravel, and I didn't want, because I was being a pussy, I didn't want fucking gravel hitting my car.
That's fine. That's not.
And so they were kind of like, how come you drop back? And I was like, because I didn't want gravel hitting my car.
Yeah.
So I don't drive old cars up the canyons at bonsai speeds. I just don't. We do it for press cars because we want to see what they're capable of, but even so, we stay within the limit of the car. I mean, really, the limits have just gotten very, very high.
Yeah.
Especially compared to my 17-year-old BMW, or even I know Daniel, and I know his 135i. That thing's like a 09. It's like 13 years old. Also, it's not, that's not a brand new car. And don't get me wrong, those things are pretty quick, but I can enjoy a drive in the mountains at less than bonsai speeds. I can enjoy the curves, I can enjoy but I don't need to be finding the limit at all. Certainly not in my own cars. And also, my own car, I'm not spending as much time like at red light. I'll fucking bang the rev limiter on press cars, and I won't do that kind of shit in my own car. I just won't.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Neither will I.
Yeah. So anyway, that's our show. We're gonna get kicked out of our junior suite here. we're gonna have to. Our flight isn't for like 5 hours, so I think we should take the shuttle into town and do some shopping.
Yeah.
But thank you for joining us from Steamboat Springs. We'll actually talk about the thing we were doing here next week from our show. We got 2 shows. We're recording on tomorrow. Tom Segura is coming in for a quick hour. He said he's only got an hour, but he's going to do it. And Johnny's coming in at 3. So we're double headering tomorrow.
Yeah, we probably won't do Q&A with Tom because he's only got an hour.
No, he's only got an hour.
Yeah.
So that's it. See you later. Bye.